Tunisia's 2011 revolution dramatically transformed the lives of many of its people. We talk with some of them about the changes they have experienced.
Islamic State militants undertake or inspire attacks against innocent civilians across the world, and U.S. officials warn Nigerians to be on their guard.
And young people in Zimbabwe using hip-hop, dance and beatboxing in a campaign for HIV prevention and reproductive health. Africa 54 starts right now. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory, Voice of America, coming to you from our global headquarters in Washington. Cynthia Are at Channels has our first story. Cynthia?
A number of attacks connected to the Islamic State have occurred around the world in recent weeks, demonstrating the group's eagerness to attack civilians in unguarded locations. Joining me now is security and terrorism expert David Otto from London to talk with us, especially in the light of a warning from the United States authorities that extremists could be targeting Lagos as well. Welcome, David. Well, David, the issue of soft targeting, is it a tactic in itself or an act of retaliation by extremist groups against government authorities?
The whole idea is, is for the terrorist organizations, i.e. ISIL, to cause as much havoc and terror within the population as possible. So the use of a strategy to attack soft targets, is a tactic, one, and also is also a retaliation, but that would depend on the target area that we're talking about. So if, for instance, Boko Haram or ISIL attacks an airport, then it's more in terms of retaliation, and also it's in terms of their tactics of spreading fear within the population and forcing the government's hand to take certain decisions.
Now, based on what you just said about soft targeting being both retaliatory and a tactic in itself, is it time to employ a different strategy in the war against terror?
The government now has to change the strategy of using military force. They have to look at other methods, and I'm pro negotiation, because at the end of the day, what is a lot better than killing innocent people is always going to be a win-win for each and everyone involved, rather than continuing a strategy of using military tactics, which has not worked for the past 15 years and which there are no signs that it's going to work in the next 10 years to come. So I think we have to change that strategy. If not, we would be fighting a long war, which is never going to see an end. That's my take on this.
Well, finally, David, as a security expert, what are the red flags one should look out for, bearing in mind that we're being urged to stay security conscious?
There are no red flags, which somebody can actually pinpoint and say to the people, this is what you have to be looking at. Because, different environments, require different red flags. So if something is very unfamiliar within your particular environment, that it could be familiar with some other environment. But what we always say is, the government needs to understand that people have given away part of their freedom in order for them to be secured. And at the moment, even though we're telling people not to worry, to be security conscious, that is not happening, because people keep dying every day. Innocent people like you and myself keep dying every day, but the people who make these decisions are well secured in their own environment. So I think within this framework of talking about awareness, it doesn't have to end there. I think it has to go further to say governments have a direct responsibility to ensure that people are safe.
Well, security and terrorism experts David Otto, thank you so much for joining us today on Africa 54.
Well, now to Tunisia, where the country's 2011 revolution dramatically transformed the lives of many of its citizens for better and worse. And our viewers, Lisa Bryan, talked to some of them about changes they have experienced.
Tunisia's 2011 revolution dramatically transformed the lives of many of its citizens for better and worse. General Secretary of the Utica Employers Union, Ouidad Bouchamawi, one of 4 Tunisians awarded last year's Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of their civil society groups.
We need to succeed this transition. We this fragile political transition, because people, when they were on the street on December 2010 and January 2011, they shouted on one voice. They said, we want dignity, democracy and jobs.
Fares Said was on the street during the uprising. Today, he's bringing about change peacefully, writing plays and volunteering at a local radio station in Zarzis.
C'est pour changer les idées des jeunes et donner l'esprit positif.
I want to change young people's ideas and give them a positive outlook. If we don't have theater, music, or culture, we can't live. We remain enclosed, and we stop thinking.
Donc on reste enfermé.
Saïda Ounisi grew up as a political refugee in France. She returned to Tunisia shortly after the revolution. Today, she's a rising star in the moderate Islamist El Nahda party.
We consider that we have suffered as a country of this lack of pluralism and diversity in the political scene. So that is very important. So now we know that we need to experience something else, which is, like doing coalition partnerships, etc. I'm full of hope, actually.
Lisa Bryant for VOA News, Tunis.
Now, from the revolution in Tunisia to revolutionary technology, a 23-year-old scientist wants Nigeria to develop new technologies of its own, and that's why he built his own drone and even a flying car. And he's been innovating since a young age. Chrissy Lenz has more in this report, as voiced by Amarachi Ubani.
Creativity did not come to 23-year-old Ayola Olaolu as a surprise. He's built cars, motorcycle, and other means of transportation since the age of 13. 10 years after entering the world of creativity, here he comes with another innovation, a flying car. But what inspires such creativity in this graduate of computer science and engineering?
So as a plane can fly up in the air. That time it's been quite a while that I've had dreams of flying. And that desire was inspired again when there was this time that there were severe aircraft accidents. Those times, I think it was like 4 accidents happened in this country, and that year it really still sparked my interest in, okay, let's build planes that are made in Nigeria and for Nigeria, because I think that was going to be a solution to the aviation challenges we had in this country. So that
now he's not only developed a flying car, but built a drone as well. And he says making both have not been without some hitches.
To turn on the ground. When I was quite younger, I read a book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And in the book, they said learning was of 2 kinds. The first kind being the things we were taught and we knew, and the second type being the training that helped us to get the things we did not know. And that really sparked something new in me that, okay, even if I can't study aeronautics in a school, it's something I can study on my own. So that really has spawned my interest and my research. So it's been more of a trial and error learning that I've been doing since I was young. Since I've been 13, I've been doing things like this. There have been times where I've done it and failed several times, but it's a passion. It's something it's a passion that could not be quenched. So that's what has brought me this far. And as a plane, it can take.
If these prototypes are fully developed, Nigeria may be breaking from her over-dependence on foreign technology.
Yeah, I can bring it back.
Indeed. Now, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up next month in Rio, Taekwondo athletes from Ivory Coast will be headed to Brazil to try their luck at the Summer Olympics. That story after the break.